But with Corki, he chose the right fights, and that was the key difference. So, Team Denial, what will be their priorities? What will be their bans as we head into the second champion select of the day?
So this time around, Team Dignitas have the counter pick for mid lane. And yesterday it was Denial that had the option to do it, and it didn't end up going so well in their favor. We saw that CosQ kind of lost out to Senkux, and this time around, what are they going to choose for us? First one off from the list, Echo not available. And this was a ban that you and I talked about yesterday, about how kind of non-impactful we actually feel like that is against Team Dignitas. Yes, Senkux does play Echo, but he's far better on Azir. He's been vocal about his Echo not quite living up to how he wants it to.
Yeah, he was talking about that on Twitter, and also the fact that we saw Azir yesterday, which did very well against Denial. So again, they respect ban the Echo. Not completely sold. I would like to see maybe another ban up against Senkux if Victor is available for him, if he wants to bring that out. There was a long while when people were calling Senkux a one-trick, and then Victor was not enabled, and then he switched to other champions and was like just as good in this. But either way, I should say, Team Dignitas do ban out the Morgana and the Rise on red side. Makes a lot of sense. And then the Alistar will be the next ban, just like the first game of the day.
So, no junglers, no AD carry prioritized yet for either team out from the bans, so everything is fairly standard so far. Last two bans coming out, what are we going to see not available, and then what can Denial look to prioritize from that? Okay, Sivir banned out at this point. I would imagine this is going to be Woolite looking for first pick Kalista. At this point, even though Kalista still does well against Sivir, you've banned out one AD carry. If you don't pick up an AD carry to begin your draft here, it's going to be problematic.
Yeah, it is true. Kobe could even pick up the Urgot here, depending on what the final ban is into that Kalista. The final ban will be Gnar. A first pick Kalista would make a lot of sense. It will be locked in by Denial, so everything makes sense so far, Stress.
Yeah, the Gnar ban kind of doesn't, but Wicked's been having really strong games on his Gnar. So I don't feel like it's a meta ban, but I would say it actually now zones Wicked onto one of his lesser impactful champions. You look at the likes of, you know, Maokai, Malphite, Irelia are the three really that he's played. He's played Hecarim, but I don't feel like it's his jam. I'm just going to say it like that. I feel like Wicked performs a lot better on the tank setup.
And they take away the Hecarim as well. So we're not even going to see Wicked.
Whoa, that was a fast Azir.
It narrows him down. So we've got the Hecarim, we've got the Fresh coming in from Team Dignitas EU, and a very fast lock-in straight up. The Azir has been denied from Senkux, and we have the Gragas now coming in as that tier 1 jungler.
So, Denial know that they're going to be against the counter pick mid laner, so take away what you feel like is Senkuk's remaining strong mid lane pick. Also managing to hide, not that they need to hide their solo laner, because now they know it's a Hecarim up in the top lane. And actually, now the Gnar being banned away, going all the way back to that, the Gnar Hecarim matchup now no longer available as a pick for Denial. So I actually like that pickup by Dignitas, knowing that they'd banned away the Gnar. Team Dignitas have now locked in fairly quickly their jungle and their AD carry. Kobe taking a page out of Woolite's book, going for the Corki in today's game, and the Rek'Sai is a fairly straightforward one. Gragas already picked up, no real reason to deter from anything other than that.
Yeah, I think that's fairly cut and dry when it comes to champion selects nowadays. Pick one of the top tier junglers, pick up the other one.
Yep.
That is your strategy. What could the next two pickups be? So we're looking for a top laner, and we're looking for a support. The top laner with Gnar being taken away, which is a usually obvious pick up against the Hecarim, has a great matchup into him. So what will Woolite go on to? Rumble will be a very new one. Usually we'd be looking for like a Malphite and Irelia here. Those are his classic fallbacks. A Maokai could also work, and it looks like it's going to be the case. So Maokai comes in here, is just going to be a very neutral matchup for Hecarim up there.
There is a lot of protection / peel coming out from Denial when you look at things. Maokai, Gragas to disengage, Janna to disengage and protect, Azir to disengage. It's fairly clear what Denial are looking for from this setup. Team Dignitas, on the other hand, looking for catches and engages when you look at it. Wonderwell are going to look to engage using the Hecarim. Looking for kind of secondary engage coming from the Rek'Sai and the Thresh. Mid lane, what does Senkux want into CosQ's Azir? Does he want something like a Cassiopeia? We just saw that matchup in the previous game.
Pick, perhaps? Like a Twisted Fate?
Maybe.
Like an Ari?
We don't see all that much Twisted Fate, really, in that. We saw it yesterday from Take Fun, but it's not one of those picks that you see it and it's like, this is exactly the pick that I want. But however, it will circumvent a lot of the disengage that is going to come out from Denial. And okay, it has actually been locked in. So they have global presence. They have you know, the ability to pick by going in behind people using the Destiny. It's an interesting one, but I feel like the later this game goes, the less chance Team Dignitas have of cutting through the lineup of Denial. They have very little late game damage sources when it comes to it, whereas you've got Nazir on the side of Denial, and you know, Kallista's not particularly late game herself, but still is going to have a fair amount of damage when it comes to taking down some of the tanks on the side of Team Dignitas. Well, not quite so great, but
yeah, I mean, it looks like, to me, that Team Dignitas, they're going to look for like a 35-minute, 40-minute at the latest win, is looking for a mid-game win here because, yeah, as you mentioned, not enough damage to cut through those comps unless you snowball hugely with the TF and you can just insta-burst the AD carry. But yeah, it's interesting. I don't think I've actually seen a TF game from Senkox. It's usually when they've been going into like a pick composition, he'd up towards like an Ahri.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. This doesn't feel like a champion that Senkox kind of wants as his top tier.
Yeah.
Very interesting. As you said, they will have global presence. Senkox, I still feel like, is going to be able to play the 1v1 out fairly comfortably. That tends to be his biggest strength as a mid laner, is he tends to get a lead in every single lane that he's in. Well,
before we kick off this game, I said to take a look at those two compositions once again. So we do have the Maokai, we've got the Gragas as well. So a lot of area denial from Denial. Ha, funny. And then Azir with the ultimate. Kallista's going to be able to bounce around through all that. So it's going to be pretty hard to get on top of Walleye, but maybe that was what the Senkox was for. The Senkox with the Twisted Fate, because it's a point and click stun. Whereas Ahri, you've got to land the skill shot.
Right. Sorry, I still was not expecting that laugh that you gave after it. But yeah, as you said, point and click. Wonderware actually is running the Smite as well. So looking for that Cinder Hulk way of playing on that Hecarim. So that's a little bit of a change up from what we've seen some of the top laners do. But this, I feel like Team Dignitas have to snowball this fairly heavily. They need to look to get a couple of dragons early, look to get Senkox out on the map, look to get Cobby fed, get to that Triforce spike point and start pushing down towers. If they don't, they may struggle if they're dragged into team fights by Denial later.
That seems to be the game plan for both of these teams. But either way, Stress, we are about to get onto the rifts, but there is still time. Nice thing, Lando. There is still time to vote for the team you think has the upper hand in this champion select and in this game by tweeting either DNL win or hashtag DEU win. But wait, there's more. Make sure to tweet at us with the hashtag CS Big Plays if you see a big play by one of the teams, and your tweet could make the broadcast.
Yeah, well, we'll see whether there are any big plays. Senkox made a couple yesterday.
He did. So, well, generally, if you just follow Senkox around the game, you'll find something that he does in the game that looks flashy. So that's just like the easy one, right? That's like the cop-out. The challenge,
True.
The hashtag challenger cop-out.
You've undone my plan of getting my tweet on broadcast.
Rip. Either way, Stress, let's get into this one. It is Team Denial eSports up against Team Dignitas EU. This time, it will be Denial swapping into the blue side of the map, and Team Dignitas going all the way up and taking the long walk up onto the red side, with this Twisted Fate pick coming out as well. But Hecarim, Wonderware has actually started off with this Crystalline Flask and the potion. So he hasn't gone for the non-committal approach where you take a camp and then decide what you want to go for.
So what we're learning is Wonderware is not afraid of commitment.
Yeah, today I learned.
So Wonderware, seemingly a solid pick for this Dignitas lineup. Well committed to the team, but Wonderware starting to commit onto Wicked at this point. Is chasing him down, but he's only going to get a sapling.
It's not going to hurt him that much, though. And Wonderware will stay exactly where he was a couple seconds ago. There are two members from Team Dignitas EU in the top side of the map. One of them is actually Cobbe. So we'll see if Team Dignitas EU go for a lane swap with this Corky pick and the Fresh, and Nisbet is going to the top side of the map, so it looks like that is the case. Wicked places down a ward, but it only sees Wonderware in the top lane, so the mind games are opening up the game for Team Dignitas.
I would expect no less out of these two teams. Honestly, these are two of the teams that I'm expecting to be fighting for that #1 and #2 spot. So remember, to anybody that maybe didn't tune into Spring Split of Challenger, the top team at the end of the Challenger Series playoffs will be automatically promoted into the LCS, just like Origin were. And they seem to be doing pretty well for themselves. We'll see whether DNL or Team Dignitas will be the ones joining them.
Yeah, doing well for themselves, just a little. One of the best teams in Europe, just doing well for themselves. Either way, Team Dignitas heading into the jungle, and with all of this stack in the top lane, they're going to invade with these 4 members in the top side. And it is completely blind from Team Denial. So they'll send Warlight and Wendelbow into the top lane. So they've read the lane swap. And now is a question of whether Betong Yoka can take the blue buff from Team Dignitas EU or just have to settle with a single buff.
That really is a good question, and that is a result that maybe is a little bit surprising when you consider there's 2 former LCS players on the side of Denial eSports, but Team Dignitas certainly having the fan vote here for their, I guess, second game, first broadcasted game.
I mean, they won yesterday, but it was super close.
It was. That was quite a heart-stopping game that we had the pleasure of watching, but certainly there was a lot of back and forth. If this game is anything like yesterday's, it'll be edge of the seat action.
Hook.
Ooh,
not quite. Not until Warlight. Laying down the rhymes. So Betong Yoka now heading into this blue buff and just take it away. So he's on the double buffs to start off the game. Obvious will take his own. So Betong Yoka has not been put behind in this. So now we just have the standard matchups. Now we just have the Australian lanes. And I feel like either team is necessarily pulled ahead from that.
Not yet. No, I don't feel like either team has particularly gone too far out. I'm looking for that kind of Hecker and Maokai matchup to see whether we get jungle pressure from either side this early on. That really is going to start opening things up. Also, the point at which this game really gets turned on its head is when Senkux hits level 6, because that's when his ultimate, he can use it just to get into other lanes. Warlight has been hooked, though.
Death Sentence comes across, the exhaust goes down onto Kabe, trying to get some more damage out. The fast bomb lands onto Wendelbow, jumps after him with the Valkyrie, dodges out of the way of the Howling Gale, has been shielded up. The first blood actually goes over to Warlight. Kabe looking for some retribution. Woolman to take him out, not a fast bomb onto Wendell, looking for a couple more autos to finish him off. Does he have the flash? He's already used it, and Wendelbow will shield himself up. So that's a 1-for-1 in the top lane between the duo lanes.
And we've been seeing Warlight have very good early games, especially in the last couple of games he played for Roccat. He was getting leads in lane. This time he gets hooked and just absolutely destroyed by the bottom lane from Team Dignitas. Almost every summoner in this lane was used. Flash still available for Wendelbow, but that is about it. Not even the early exhaust coming out from that Janna was enough to keep Warlight alive.
But after the dust has settled, Kabe now comes out of that with 26 CS to 12 from Warlight, who is now trying to get the scraps underneath this turret. So, despite that being an even trade in terms of kills, Team Dignitas get the slight advantage, which we'll see if they can keep up with that. Looking towards the Phage as the first item from Kabe, which is pretty standard.
Yep, looking for that trade boss. Looking for one of the most obvious spikes, or power spikes in the world. That was mentioned so very much when Corki was in the meta. Every game you'd hear those couple of words. But mid lane is where I kind of want to look as well. As look at the CS difference. It has opened up in favor of CosQ. And oh, hook lands onto Wendelbow. We know he's still got his flash. But it's mid lane.
Knock up onto CosQ, follow up with the stun card, and CosQ will have to flash away and use his cleanse, so burning double stuns in the mid lane.
So earlier though, Senkux had used his flash in the lane, which is why he ended up down in CS. That flash not being available for Senkux earlier is a big problem. Now CosQ has burned both of his summoners. Obvious is looking to just kind of come around again for almost the identical gank, but it's not going to be, as CosQ is playing this far too smart to get picked off that quickly.
Yeah, so now there's 2v2 again. Still a thing. Kabe will be firing it up. Obvious now taking this crab as well on the top side of the map, securing that vision. A matchup that we haven't really spoken about is the solo laners in the bot lane with the Maokai and Wonderwear. You can see him heading on the base right now. And Wonderwear has gone for the smite this game, not gone for the ignite. So looking for a slightly later into the game, which is interesting considering we were talking in Champion Select about the team compositions that we're looking for like a mid-game win from Team Dignitas.
Yeah, that is an interesting one. I mean, it's going to be on Wonderwear to set up the engages in the middle lane. But again, it's not somewhere in the late game that I really expect Team Dignitas to do all that well.
Right.
Again, it's more that they need to find favorable fights than they actually cannot fight in the late game. But certainly against an Azir, it is very difficult. We've seen that in so many games now, just how much damage Azir has.
I mean, it's going to be less of those fights to take for sure.
And honestly, if Team Dignitas can set them up by using the Destiny to get onto the Azir, catch him unawares, take him out very early on in the fight, then by all means Team Dignitas can look to take down a fight.
Take down a fight indeed, Stress. CosQ in the mid lane, looking for the same build that we saw Senkux building before. Betong Yoka has found Senkux, and he has found the Ghost, so Senkux will be backing away here. So now mid lane, neither of them have summoners. Oh, Nisbet has found Wendell though in the top lane though. Again, the exhaust comes out, gets the flay onto 2. Cobby still putting down the damage. Rent will come through and respond with a little damage from Woolite. And with the damage on the AD carry, a little more favorable.
Man, this CS difference opening up between Cobby and Woolite is something that's somewhat unexpected. We looked at their stats from the previous games and they were fairly close, but this is a laning advantage being opened up by a Corki against a Kalista. Normally Kalista's laning phase is what really is her bread and butter. She just has so much damage. Pair that with a Janna. That is another hook on Woolite.
3 in a row, and Nisbet looking to secure another kill for his AD carry. The Valkyrie comes back and makes sure that Woolite goes down. 2 and 1 currently in this game, and Team Dignitas EU pulling ahead from the 8-minute mark.
Yeah, this is a horrendous start for this 2v2 setup for Denial. Getting hooked twice already is pretty much unforgivable at this point, because this is putting the Kalista behind, and they need Kalista in the game to offer them some damage until Azir really has a couple of items under his belt. So Team Dignitas are capitalizing on what is some, I guess, unfortunate positioning. Okay, I'm just going to say it. Woolite has stepped forward into hooks in this game twice already. I'm just going to say it like it is. That is something that has actually not been characteristic of Woolite in the laning phase for the last couple of months.
It was characteristic of out of the laning
Yeah,
phase.
it's characteristic of like 40 minutes into the game where, you know, one mistake closes the game. So I don't want to be too harsh, but certainly that is something that we aren't too used to.
Oh, Wonderwear comes in with the Onslaught of Shadows and burns the flash from Wicked, so he'll take that one. That is a very good trade for him. His cooldowns do not match.
I like this play out of Team Dignitas to get the Dragon. I feel like they have to work a little bit after this to get more. They trade their dual lane down to the bottom lane to get the Dragon control, but they're going to trade away the top tower. If Team Dignitas now go bottom lane with all 4 people and match the kind of push that is coming out from Denial, they should be able to hold on to this. And it's actually Wonderwear that's going to go up to the top lane himself. Now it's only 3 in the bottom lane. All the teleports and globals are coming out. Senkux is going top lane to try and hold. I don't know whether they're actually going to be able to do anything. That was a Twisted Fate ultimate used for nothing.
Yeah. Let's play musical lanes. Team Dignitas lose.
Yeah, because I mean, they get the Dragon. Now they've got a 2-man push in the bottom lane. It's not going to be as fast to take down this turret, and I don't know whether they'll get it. I'm actually going to check very quickly. The tower is on full health, and they only had 5 minions in the bottom lane as well, so they won't get it on this wave. The question is, the dual bot lane is going to make it in time. So what did Team Dignitas do from here? Because yes, they got the Dragon, but they lost the tower for it, and that has given Denial a little bit of gold now in their pockets to catch up on this. Yeah,
the important thing from that was it wasn't just Team Dignitas taking something, taking a kill, and then taking something on top of it. It was a trade. And we've seen how trades in the past have led to teams losing.
There are a couple of issues from both sides, though, on that play. Senkux teleporting out of lane makes it more difficult for him to keep up in CS now against CosQ. He spent time out of the lane. Bottom lane setup, Cobby gets further ahead against Woolite, again, from just being able to farm out in this bottom lane for a while everybody was pushing in the top lane. So it's a balancing act right now. It's a fairly close game overall. Team Dignitas with a very slight gold lead and the Dragon lead, but certainly Denial by no means out of this.
Not at all, especially with Azir in the mid lane. We saw how fantastic that was in our first game of the day between Gamers 2 and Overclockers. So CosQ will be able to output damage the later this game goes on, I should say. So Denial, he just needs to hunker down and buy Cinderhulk, which Betong Yoka has done.
Yeah, hunker down and buy Cinderhulk. You're going to see that on one of those posters.
Yeah.
Keep calm.
Inspirational quotes.
Yeah, exactly. But down in this bottom lane, Cobby has picked up the Sheen. going up against the recurve bow Vampiric Scepter, so those are actually fairly minor combat stats coming out from Woolite, whereas Kobe can output so much damage.
That is a lot of pain very quickly. Obvious has found him, and the rocket finds Woolite as well, and finds another kill for Kobe. He is 100% kill participation in this game, and when we looked at that from the game they played yesterday, he had a large impact, and Woolite has been all of those kills so far.
He's been 100% death participation so far, is the other way to look at that. But Woolite couldn't quite flash over the wall either. Just took the chunky side of the wall and couldn't get himself out and over. There falls the turret in the bottom lane. So Team Dignitas, again, very similar to yesterday, they're getting the lead early on. They didn't really close the game out quickly or cleanly yesterday's game either, so that's one thing we have to watch for. Teleport top lane.
Oh, nice onslaught of shadows. Will get Wicked back into Senkooks with the fear, looking for the stun card. Lands it, connects it. Betong Yoka here to save Wicked though. The Maelstrom was enough damage reduction to keep him alive, and now he'll be going back to base.
And that's one of the problems for Team Dignitas is this Twisted Fate will have damage. That is not, I'm not saying he's going to have no damage, but comparatively, the Azir is going to have way more. So to chunk through the tanks, Team Dignitas have to completely take away the damage dealers from Denial, and even then, Team Dignitas are going to have problems taking down the tank line of Denial eSports.
That being said, we are arriving at Power Spike Central. Team Dignitas EU have just picked up the Trinity Force onto Kobe. Senkooks now has the Morellonomicon. Jungle has the Cinderhulk. Top lane doesn't... Well, he has the Home Guards, which is a Power Spike too. So, in terms of the time where they can do stuff, now is that time.
It's less of a power spike for Home Guards. You are correct, though. It does give him some added, added damage to his kit. But the changes that happened to Hecarim completely, kind of dropped that quite a lot.
Not multiplicative
for the team
anymore.
fight. Yeah, exactly. When it comes to team fighting and charging in with the Home Guard, it's not quite as effective anymore. You managed to say multiplicative. I can't even say that word, and I can't even say effective.
Was there a word that I messed up earlier that was pretty easy?
There was, but I can't remember what it was. It's probably a good thing that I can't.
Good times.
Because my brain is not working up to speed right now. But Team Dignitas, again, they've now moved this Corki around. He's got his Trinity Force, so they can just push down towers like this. It's good timings out of Team Dignitas to look for a tower as soon as they hit that spike.
Yeah, 2 and 2 on turrets right now, so evenly traded, but Team Dignitas do lead in terms of the Dragons. And speaking of the Dragon, he will be spawning in around 1 minute, ready to return to his Dragon Den. Senkooks in the mid lane is falling behind slightly in terms of farm up against Kozaku, but he has been roaming a lot in this game, has been putting a lot of pressure on the side lanes, and that has resulted in CS advantages for his...
It's not a good day for English on this broadcast today.
I nailed the hard word there. That's what counts.
I know. Yeah, I guess that is... Let's just go back to Terminator quotes.
They're easy.
Well, Team Dignitas is trying to say hasta la vista to this tower, but
come with me if you want to live, Betong Yoka. He'll be dragged into the team. Nisbet, though, is pulled away from the fight. Kozku returns with the damage from Conquering Sands. And after all of that, nothing dies, no one dies.
Man, another one of these fights that everybody kind of drops fairly low to begin with, and then it just kind of fizzles out. Denial right now looking for the tower themselves. They have the health bar advantage for now. Wonderware is actually going to step up and take a lot of damage from those soldiers, but it's not going to be enough to take down that turret from Denial yet. 10 seconds on the Dragon means Denial are going to look for the position on it, I would imagine, but they haven't yet started to move down there.
This is very good timing from Wonderware, though, because he's just recalling back to base. He has the Home Guards, and he has Teleport, so he's just about ready to contest this Dragon. But, as neither team is really posturing over it, he's just going to walk out of base instead.
Yeah, now they're going to posture mid-tower and back away straight as they say that. I was going to say, they push up and then they go, oh, there's 3 of you there. Okay, you've got a Twisted Fate. You can clear the way with wild cards and a red card. So it might be tricky for Denial if Twisted Fate is still there with that Corki to actually push down towers. So that's going to become a little problematic. But then again, on the other side, you've got an Azir, you've got a, Callista, a Gragas. It's enough to hold a wave, maybe a wave and a half. If you start undergoing a big siege, then that might be a problem for Denial.
Well, Denial are going to be the ones who are going to be starting off this Dragon, and Team Dignitas EU, despite going around the area, despite getting the vision for it as well, just decide to allow this to go right over to Denial. What is their master plan, Stress?
Well, they couldn't push mid tower fast enough to actually get the tower down. So that's a very interesting one at this point, because Wonderwear, yes, he's pushing in the top lane, but they will be able to go over and stop him. So Team Dignitas actually don't get anything from that trade. The only thing that they can really hope for now is that Denial Recall and Team Dignitas can establish vision control by utilizing the back timings now coming from the Dragon.
Kozq taking up his blue buff as well. Yeah, we'll see if that comes... if that rings true, I should say. Sencook's in the bottom lane, though, farming away, doing what TF does, being in the side lane, being an annoyance. And pretty much everyone has picked up what trinket they want from Team Dignitas. Meanwhile, still sitting on the vision totems from Team Denial, so haven't maybe gone into the optimal shape in terms of trinkets just yet at 17 minutes. Here comes Obvious. Over to the jungle, finds himself a Sentinel, takes it down. There's still one following him there.
Sencook's was waiting in the bottom lane for Kalista. Another reason why they picked this Twisted Fate was pretty obvious utility of that gold card. Point and click stun right onto the Kalista, lock him down in team fights, don't let her get moving around the side. This time, however, Team Dignitas have found themselves the spot in the middle lane. That tower will go down. No real way of Denial fighting that fight there, but that's a third outer tower going down in favor of Team Dignitas, but now they're going to have to deal with the Sun Disk if they want to push further.
They will, and they don't want to, so they'll back away. But yeah, taking a look at some of the new additions as well. Wicked now coming into this lineup. Yes, we've seen him a lot on Malphite, but also a lot on Irelia, and he's just performing this just tank role this game. And we'll see if he's able to get those initiations down, because he's always been on like a champion who can make things happen. So we'll see as this game drags on whether he'll be the one who's making his plays.
Yeah, I am interested to watch how Wicked actually does in the rest of this game. He's actually been looking very good against the other challenger top laners. There haven't really been too many situations where I thought he was, you know, out of his comfort zone at all. So a lot of those games were on Gnar with that Hurricane build that we saw out of Wicked, which I actually went and tried it out.
Oh, yeah?
Actually a really fun build to play with. You stack... Oh, up top.
This is not so fun, though, for Kozq, as Obvious finds him with the knock-up. The Sun Disk is getting teleported on by Wicked, though, and this bet will be getting Sencook to safety. He was just in the back lines assassinating Wendelbow, so they trade Obvious for the support. Middle Sun Disk goes down, so that was a 1-for-1 overall. Yeah,
1-for-1, but at that point, Team Dignitas used both of their global abilities, the teleport and the destiny, to get into that fight, and they only trade even. Now the turret goes down in favor of Denial. That was Team Dignitas forcing a fight that really they couldn't quite take.
Just trying to make something happen a little too hard, you have to feel. Well, we're going to take a look at that one once again in the initiation and lead-up.
Look at how late the teleport comes in from Wonderwear in this setup. He's only just starting it now, as Obvious gets blasted back into the turret. Yes, they managed to pick up Wendelbow, but at this point, he teleports in just to run out. Wonderwear actually had very little impact on that team fight.
It's also interesting because Wicked teleported on top of the Sun Disk, which was on very low HP, so had that been killed, then he would have been completely out of the fight as well. So it was good that that one went off. So Denial just pull even, which is pretty much what Denial want in this game.
So one adaptation has been made to this setup from Team Dignitas. Bilgewater Cutlass being picked up is going to give Corki that little bit more damage to deal with tanks. Typically when you're building Corki the kind of older way, where you go Trinity Force into standard AD items, you have trouble killing tankier targets. This time with the Blade of the Ruined King, it's a lot more about just those autos onto targets, gets you a lot more damage in your rotation. So it's a way of Team Dignitas actually kind of curving off that damage drop-off that they may have been having later into this game.
Mid lane as well, Sencook has opted towards the Sheen and the Aether Wisp, so it's going to be a Lich Bane, which will just add even more damage on top of that pick card. So looking for these picks more than anything. Yes, he was able to assassinate Wendelbow in that last fight, but obviously his target was going to be either Kozq or Woolite. Kozq is going to be hard to lock down unless they can kill him in those 2 seconds while he's stunned up, because Kozq now has the Zhonya's. Woolite, though, is still a pretty juicy target. It's just about getting on top of him. Talking about those AD carries, in fact, the CS differential, yes, it was significant in the laning phase because of all those kills on top of Woolite, but it's opened up even more now. 30 CS in advantage to Kabe.
That is something, again, that when we looked at the AD carries, we're saying Woolite should just have a good game every single game. There should be no reason why Woolite isn't getting ahead of these AD carries. That's not to say that they can't fare for themselves, but remember, Woolite won Rookie of the Split last split. Not last
The
year.
split before last split.
Huni won last split. Summer Split previously was Woolite's split for Rookie of the Split award. So, I mean, I don't feel like Woolite should be struggling in any of these games. Just from you look, he's just come straight out of LCS. Yes, okay, Roccat had a couple of rough weeks, but his personal performances were still pretty decent pre-40 minutes.
Yeah, I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head with that one, and that is the big difference from this game. And it was all from the laning phase 2 versus 2. Obviously didn't have that much input in the lane before Nisbet was landing those multiple hooks onto Woolite. And yes, praise to Nisbet as well.
Yeah. Also
being in the LCS, landed a lot of good hooks in this lane, which has been gifting Kobe the advances in the early game. But still, as Kalista, who is someone who wants to win the lane, didn't quite work out. Either way, Dragon is now alive. This is the third one of the game, and Team Dignitas EU are going to posture around it. So it looks like this may be the catalyst for a fight.
I would expect so, but Woolite is up around mid lane, so Team Dignitas are able to just start this one off fairly quickly. Woolite is hopping his way down towards the Dragon Pit. That's going to get smited away, and Team Dignitas should be able to back out. Ooh, Lantern over the wall is enough, so Team Dignitas get themselves a Dragon. Denial can't even contest it. And Denial's wave in the middle lane is about to run out. Senpai even uses Destiny to get himself in place to wildcards the wave down.
That was very well executed, so they don't lose the middle turret. The Suntus comes up, but doesn't do a whole lot. The Dragon goes over to Team Dignitas EU. Wonderware, through all of that, was in position to flank with his ultimate if necessary. That was just a great setup by, by Team Dignitas, yeah, by the Bucks.
Real clean out of Team Dignitas. They saw Woolite, saw him mid, no real way of doing all that much. Also, Denial, in this game, they don't particularly have the option to just use the Kalista and Azir to do an early Baron. Because of the Twisted Fate ult, there's going to be no real time where they can all drop off the map, and it looks inconspicuous because you just hit Destiny. Oh, okay, they're on Baron. And we'll go in and contest that. So, Denial, their actual options because of this Twisted Fate start getting a little bit reduced.
Options... No options. Obvious, we'll take the option of taking the crab. I'll go down in the bottom side of the map. He is recalling on a ward, but Denial will ping that out. And actually, Wicked is heading up to disrupt him as well. But Wicked going into the bottom lane. He's lagging slightly behind in terms of farm against Wonderware, but he's Maokai. He's not going to be too dissatisfied as he will scale off the gold just as well as a tank.
Saving grace, however, for Denial at this point is Azir has got himself the Zhonya's Hourglass, got the Morellonomicon and the level 2 boots as well, is up in farm. We know how good Cosq's team fighting and his Azir are. Pair them together should be a good factor for Denial. So it's all on betting Yoke's engages though. And then Wicked locks somebody down, Cosq takes them out of the fight. That's how it should be going for Denial, but we'll see if Team Dignitas can disrupt that with this Twisted Fate.
Yeah, there is a 3,000 gold advantage to Team Dignitas EU, but in terms of how that really impacts this game, not a whole lot when you come to these team fights, because Cosq, as you just mentioned, is going to become a pretty major factor in that. Again, we're finding ourselves in a pretty slow game in comparison to like day one's game. Like both teams have utilized all their prep on the day one game, and then coming into the second one are just playing it a little more defensive as they've now had time to read their opponent. So they're just playing it out, looking for mistakes rather than necessarily making proactive plays.
Yeah, I agree. And then a lot of this game is down to, for the most part, how shallow the warding is. All of it is concentrated down the river. Team Dignitas, even with their lead, haven't pushed into the enemy base to put wards down. Denial have had a couple scattered through the very entrances of the Team Dignitas jungle, but really Team Dignitas haven't had the vision all the time to make plays on this map. With the outers being down as well, there are very few obvious objectives to take down. Now you have to look to set up a siege, and it's not something they've really done.
Well, Nisbet has to flash away after missing the death sentence, but Woolite gets choked by the wild card. Wonderware is into the fight, lands the Onslaught of Shadows onto 2, will be bounced back with the knockback from Betong Yoka. Now Wicked is trying to CC up the back lines. Nisbet now comes back into the fight. Big ultimate by Betong, he didn't use it before. And now Sencook's moving on to Wendelbo, who is actually leading the charge for some reason. Nisbet now still kiting back. Only 1 kill apiece. Wonderer is in the back line, somehow managed to get the flank, and he will by himself allow his team to sweep up the team of Denial. The Wildcards will tag Wicked on the way out. He'll be flashing away, just trying to distract Team Dignitas from taking more than they can. The ace comes in from Wonderwear, and from what looked like a very even fight, turns into a 5-for-1 for Dig.
Team Dignitas opened up with a lot of damage down onto Woolite and the carries, then get completely disrupted and blasted around, and now they're looking for Baron. This is actually going to be a little bit close here because Team Dignitas have to have Wonderwear tank. Now Obvious is here, comes in, smites it over the wall. Okay, good timing on Obvious to get himself to that Baron. That is the Baron going over to Team Dignitas, but that team fight was very back and forth between these two teams. So it all starts with the damage that comes down onto the Denial lineup. Look at Woolite, just takes one wild card and it drops him down. From this, he actually gets himself out of the fight. Wendelbo manages to ult a lot of people away from him, and now Team Dignitas are kind of forced to back out of the fight. Nobody's really dealing damage for Team Dignitas, so it looks like Denial have the engage they want here, but Sencook's getting himself to the back of the fight was so important at this point. He then pops his ultimate just for the vision, ultimately ends up using it to get a little bit more damage down onto Wicked, but that was a bit of a precarious fight. But notice how Cobby is still very healthy in this setup, and that is another key factor in these fights for Team Dignitas that is allowing them to take this lead.
It really just looked like towards the end of that fight that DNL forgot that Wonderwear was in that fight after he went with the onslaught and chased the AD carry out of the fight and then came in again at the end. So that was just really well worked towards the end of that fight, and that was really just swung the gold advantage massively in favor of Team Dignitas EU. From that, they took the Baron. They've now taken... did they say Dragon? No, Dragon's up in 20 seconds. They took a bunch of farm in each lane. And from that 3,000 advantage they had before, it is now turned into a 7,000 gold advantage. Nice. Good maths. Wendelbo has found Obvious in the top lane, though. Gets the Howling Gale. Woolite, he's pretty much got this fish in a barrel. See if he can get the kill down. Will be getting the tunnel back to safety, though. Finds him. Wendelbo gets the Monsoon back into his AD carry, but Obvious has another tunnel to get away. The ward comes up to keep him in place, and so does the Howling Gale. Eventually, they take down Obvious, but it took far longer than it should have done.
And they lose a turret for it at the same time, so all it was a kill, and now Wonderwear is going to get himself the Dragon as well. They invested so much time and energy into getting just a kill onto Obvious, and they neutralize the jungler, and it actually does nothing for the team overall. All it is a single kill.
Like, the funny thing is, you kill the jungler so that you can pick up the objectives following that, and as a result of tunneling on to the Rek'Sai, pun not intended, it meant that Team Dignitas EU just picked up the Dragon because they chased after the jungler. So Denial have the right idea in theory, but in execution, not quite there.
Yeah, that is pretty safe to say at this point. But as this game continues for Team Dignitas, they I'm kind of looking at their options now for closing this game out. They still need to get themselves the inners and some inhibitor turrets down as well, but they're in a good spot for the amount of gold they've got. We talked about how if it got to the late game, they'd be problematic. At this point, they've got enough of a lead that I don't think it's going to get to that point. As long as they can start to use this Twisted Fate, get him in a side lane, maybe even look to set up some kind of 1-3-1, using the Twisted Fate, using either the Rek'Sai or the Hecarim in the other lane as well. They've got a lot of ability to just kind of cross the map very quickly.
Yeah, I guess the key of that was really Team Dignitas in an equal gold scenario, in like a scenario where they are drawing even in terms of resources with Denial. They would have problems, but they are far ahead in terms of resources, so it's not really a problem. It is still a slow closeout. It's like these small bursts of actions when it comes into team fights, and then a whole lot of just taking objectives, taking some farm, taking objectives, taking some more farm, and buying items. And that's pretty much what has been the game so far. Got the sight stones from both junglers as well.
You did just sum up League of Legends. It's like between fights, you take farm, take
and
objectives.
And also picking people.
But here's a fight.
Oh, Woolite as well. 2 in 1. Oh, didn't get any of them, but still.
That was nice. If that had been the end of him there, he would have pretty much killed himself at that point. But man, that was very touch and go second there for Woolite.
Yeah,
hey,
like,
I'll save you. Uh-oh.
The hook flew right through you into me and has also secured your death. Either way, they get the flash and they also get the heal. So they got something from that. Team Dignitas EU now pushing in the top side of the map. Wicked is in the bottom side. He has teleport. He has Righteous Glory as well. And he's recalling back to base. Mid lane, Wonderwearer is still pushing away to have Woolite and Betong Yoka manning up the defense in there. Cobby just making sure that there is no one in every single bush. There's a lot of vision going in the top side of the map right now for Team Dignitas EU. Obvious over the wall. Now comes in the siege. Senkook should do a bunch of damage with that Lichbane proc, and Coscube comes in, tries to pick Cobby, flashes away from the Emperor's Divide. Wicked now coming into this fight, gets hooked up into the back lines, and Wicked, or rather Wonderwell, will be jumping into the own back lines as he takes down Coscube and Wendelbow pretty much single-handedly. Senkook gets knocked into the tower, but the rest of his team is doing work onto Wicked, who is pretty much the only one left in this fight in fighting shape. Betong Yoka has already flown out of the fight himself, and he is the only surviving member. Now he decides to return, and now was not the right time to do so. Top turret will be going down. How much can Dig take off this?
I actually think they can maybe even look to take everything. Look at it, Lichbane on Senkook here. Look how fast this turret dies. They've got enough minions and enough health, perhaps, to close this out completely if they are willing to push this. Senkook's so much damage down on the towers. It's only Wendelbow up right now. Coscu up in 8.
Well, he was trying to shield the turret, but there is no turret to shield anymore. That's gone down, and now he blasts them away with the Monsoon, but it's simply not going to be enough. And off that 1-1 team fight at 30 minutes into the game, Team Dignitas closed out against Denial.
Wow. Wow, the end of that game came from absolute nowhere. Yes, they were ahead, but man, Team Dignitas, that was so much cleaner than yesterday when it came to closing out the game.
Yeah, it was slower than yesterday, but it was like they did everything right. There was no wrong decisions that were made, which made yesterday's game very messy because there was just team fight after team fight. But it was all like, okay, this is a fight that we can win. We will go for this fight, and then we will win it. And
let's be honest, that's a tough composition to actually play out with what Team Dignitas were looking for there. You have to be very aware of what each lane is doing and how the global cooldowns affect your ability to fight and your ability to push objectives. So Team Dignitas looking very sharp on that game there against Denial. I'm actually really impressed at how that game went.
Yeah, that was just extremely clean coming in from Team Dignitas EU, and that harkens back to our question and kind of statement earlier that we were talking about Denial and Team Dignitas EU vying for the maybe first and second spot, and where both of these teams now lie in the pecking order, because this is 2 games in a row that potentially, from kind of our opinion, that the 2 top teams have played out and Team Dignitas have come out significantly ahead.
Yeah, I feel like we weren't seeing everything from Denial that they can give in that game.
Yeah.
I actually feel like Denial have a lot higher a skill ceiling than they've showed us yet. Yes, they are just having a new AD carry with Woolite coming into the lineup, so there will be some kind of teething problems, a little bit of time to get used to a new member in the team, but I don't think Denial are out of it yet, but certainly Team Dignitas already making a statement on where they feel like they're going to end up at the end of this split.
Well, after that game stress, we are actually going to have an interview with Senkook, who is on the line with us, and he had a pretty impressive game that game, like most games that we see from Senkook. 4-0-6 on his KDA, but hey Senkook, how's it going?
Hey man, it's going good. What about you?
Oh, pretty good, pretty good. It was fun watching the game that you just played, but we have a couple questions for you. First off, with your composition, Stress was talking about how it was a pretty difficult composition to play out. What were your thoughts on that? Because you picked up the TF this game as well.
Yeah, we were just looking to 1-3-1 all the time, and we just tried to pressure the towers, which was pretty hard, and couldn't really find an opening actually. Until mid lane, where we got the first team fight, and we actually ended up winning it pretty hard. I think it was 5-1, and we got the Baron, and it just completely snowballed from it.
Yeah, it was a pretty fast snowball once that. I mean, the end of the game kind of came from nowhere. You were on a top lane in a tower, and suddenly you ended up winning the game. But Twisted Fate doesn't really seem like one of your picks when it comes to it. We've seen a lot of Azir from you. We've seen Echo from you previously. Was that a team pick, or was that something that you wanted to play in this game?
I begged my coach Broken Shot to play TF in scrims like the past week. and then we played some scrims with it, not too many, and we felt like it was pretty good right here.
Interesting. That's good to know. I mean, it's another pick that now people have to respect, I guess, now from you. It's and another playstyle completely as well.
Very true. And as Stress kind of alluded to a little bit before, that last team fight in the top lane, were you thinking, oh, after this team fight we can just straight up finish, or were you just trying to slowly close out the game? Because that was literally 30 minutes into the game, a team fight, and you just won.
Yeah, obvious was like we can end, and we were like asking each other if we could end, and then we just said whatever, go for it, and if we can just get the towers, it's fine. And then we end up seeing we could actually end because we had Lich Bane and 2 Trinity Forces, so
yeah, it
quite a lot of damage.
Certainly was a fast end to the game from that. So I want to take one last question, one step back from that game itself. Where do you think this Team Dignitas lineup is going to finish at the end of the summer split?
in the regular split or with playoffs?
Okay, we'll go regular split first because
why not both?
I feel like right now we're gonna have the competition with Gamers too, but I'm pretty confident we can end up as #1.
Interesting. I certainly look forward to that Gamers 2 matchup as well. That should be a really interesting one to watch.
Yeah, bold statement and good luck with that, Sencooks. Once again, thank you for joining us. Congratulations on the win, and we will see you next week as well.
Bye.
There we go. I mean, he says it's a tough test with Gamers 2. We said it opening, we're kind of expecting Team Dignitas to kind of be in that top 2 spot. I think if they can be that clean in games, there's nothing stopping them from maybe going into playoffs as that first spot.
Well, it's all about consistency from here on out, from like not only from teams as well, but from individuals, because we've seen a lot of good play from Kobe as well, specifically in that game and yesterday's game. So if you can keep that up, very impressive. But then also looking at Woolite, he's a good AD carry. Like, he did just as much as Kobe yesterday. It is now a case of whether he can just adapt into this new environment.
Yeah, that's a big question, and that is only something that we'll find out with in time. Really.
Only time will tell, Stress. Either way, that is game 2 in the books, so stay tuned for our last match. We'll be back in a flash. Frost.